What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the LA Soccer Hub Show. My name is Gio Garcia, coming to you right before the break or right after the break. The international break starts here in a couple of days. LA Galaxy has had two big wins. They just won yesterday against Austin FC. Obviously, the one against the U.S. Open Cup against LAFC. We're going to get into that, talk all about that. And here to join me today, we got Damian Calhoun. Damian, how you doing?
Doing all right. Glad to be on.
Yeah, no. So there was so much. We were just chopping it up pre-chat, but there was just so much that happened. Obviously, in the game yesterday, a couple disallowed goals. Chicharito missed a penalty. He had an opportunity to scored another one, which ended up turning into a handball. So a lot of different things, but they ended up coming back. They won 4-1. What were your overall thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I guess you could say they're a bit unlucky to go in a halftime without a goal. I mean, the PK, sometimes we take PKs for granted, but as you know, Chicharito hasn't had a great run at PK. So, but then they had the other goal that was called off. The ball came up and hit his hand. First half, they were still there. I thought they had a good first half. Unlucky to go in without a goal. And then after Austin scores, then Greg started making his moves. You can see the energy start picking up once Dayon comes on. Effort came on at halftime, and that just started getting things rolling there. And they ended up with 4 goals, which I didn't expect 4 goals. That's for sure.
Yeah, four goals and a half. They probably could have had more. But there were just so many things that were to like on this LA Galaxy, especially in that second half. Like you just mentioned, Dejan. We'll get more into him. Efrain also. Those second half subs really played a big part of what LA Galaxy did. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about Dejan because he had what was 2 goals, 2 assists, in about like 30 minutes of play. I know we talked about it last week, but like it just seems like every game he plays, gets more and more impressive. I think this is the most impressive game I think he's had so far. What are your thoughts about him as a player and just overall how he fits in with this team?
Yeah, he's I think Greg said in the post game, every time he comes on, something happens. He either scores a goal or I know he had a goal that was called back against I think it was Chicago. I think maybe I'm not 100% sure on that, but yeah, he comes in and changes the game. Now the question is, do you want that from minute 1 or do you want that from minute 60 on? That's the question everybody's asking Greg, and we'll see how it plays out here.
Yeah, because there's just so many things. I mean, when he does something like that, I just saw it all over social media. I've been talking about it. I'm more on the thought process. I mean, you give him 90 minutes, I think you're gonna see spectacular things from him because he's hungry like that. But also like when you just see how naturally he is happy, how he was and the press call and he was just hey like the little clip that I think the LA Galaxy played. There was like he said something along the lines like, "Hey, I was told to bring some energy." Mark number 6 or whatever the player was, and he did his job. He does more things than one, and then obviously the leader of the group, Chicharito, ended up posting him or tagging him on his goal because that was an amazing assist. And I think when you have your leader who's Chicharito and posts you on social media, acknowledges you, is what I'm trying to say. I think it really goes a long way.
Yeah, first of all, which assists are we talking about here? Because both of them were
The
unbelievable,
first,
man.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right. So I was the first one to cheat the first goal for the Galaxy. You're right. Yeah. That both. We'll get into it here. Let's actually play the first one because it was world class. Both of them was world class.
Araujo thought about it. Now he will. It's a good one. There's a beach. And it's Chicharito. That's a golazo. Goal. Third one is a charm for
So you see that he got the little heel tap there. One thing that I saw is Dejan is very aware of where Chicharito is, just to give him obviously to give him that heel pass. But what were your thoughts when you saw that and the ball went in?
Yeah, it's all about movement. That's what Greg has talked a lot about movement. You saw Julian coming down the right there, and I guess Dejan sort of might have beaten Chicharito to that spot, but just to have the sense to know that he's in the area somewhere, and he went for the little back flick there. Just perfect timing, perfect execution there.
Yeah, no, and I think to me, like, I think he's really understood where Chicharito is going to be inside the box. All he has to do, right, get the ball on his feet, and he's gonna, more than likely he's gonna be able to score on that. But I think we're also seeing so much more of Dejan's game. We're not just we've seen him be a scorer, but I think in that play, I think just seeing his knowledge of the game, seeing the knowledge of where his players are going to be. I also want to play his second goal because obviously he scored 2 goals. He did so much in 30 minutes, which is insane. And then I just want to if we can pay attention to his movement and everything and how he puts the ball away, I think it's very phenomenal.
Looks like they're going to pick up their first loss since May 14th against Real Salt Lake. Here's an opportunity. Oh, yes, counted! What a finish. It's a brace for Dejan Šobilić along with an assist. What a game for this man. Goal! And it's Dejan.
So he got that. What'd you think of that goal on Dejan?
That was his second goal, right?
Yeah, it was the second goal.
Yeah, the second goal. You saw where he started his run from like a little bit short of midfield there. He knows where to get to. You get to that special area and around goal. He's like Greg said, he's developing into the guy he thought he was when we brought him in. He has that knack and to finish, which can't be beat really.
Yeah, and I think another thing too is you just see the happiness of all his other teammates because everybody knows how much work he's put in, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, we've just seen some of it, but his teammates are in there every day and day out. And there's sometimes certain games he hasn't been played. He's also talked about more minutes, but I think throughout all of this, he's been a professional. I guess if that's the word. He's been a professional. Whenever his number has been called, he's always showing up. So. It's definitely. I think this game, when you do so much like that, 2 goals and two assists in 30 minutes, to me, I really want to see it for 90 minutes. Like I really do, and I know that will limit the wingers and potentially what they can do offensively. But I think this offense, if you have Dejan that can produce like that, and you're starting to see Cabral what he's able to do, I think this offense could be a little bit more fluid because they have so many different weapons. And I just don't. I'm just in the thought. I just don't think they have to play one way. I think they could open up the game a little bit more. Right? It's going to vary by the opponent, but I think when I'm starting to see the diversity of all these different players, and you add Cabral starting to get into rhythm, and then hopefully a big thing that also helped was Victor Vasquez and then Efrain Alvarez and all those different things. But I'm starting to see a lot more fluid offense within the LA Galaxy these last 2 games because before that it was a little shaky.
Yeah. I mean those games before Victor wasn't there, so that sort of takes away another option to sort of create these moments here. One thing Greg did credit Dejan about the other day was he brought up his defensive work, something we've never really heard him talk about, and that's how he's going to get on the field more because doing the things that you see Cabral doing. You see Cabral sprinting up and down the line, but you also see him getting back, and breaking up runs, making tackles on the defensive end. That's going to lead to more minutes for Dejan if he continues to do that. That's the first time I heard Greg actually credit his defensive work. So maybe that will lead to, after the break, you see him getting more, 30, 45 minutes and maybe leading to a start here.
Yeah, and I mean, look, it's a good problem to have, and it's also one that obviously Greg Vandy is gonna obviously have to figure out. But I think when you start seeing those different movements and how he, without a doubt, he impacts the game, I think it's pretty big. So also like he came on for Samuel Grandsir, and obviously Samuel Grandsir had a big game. He had a solid game. But another player, before we move on, I do want to talk about Kevin Cabral because he's been playing absolutely phenomenal these last 2 games. But we got to talk about the bicycle kick assist for Efrain Alvarez. We got it right here. That was insane.
Game, and then here at home against Dallas.
Oh, look at this! This is a 4-1 game. Yes! Efrain Alvarez, 4-1.
I'm gonna play it again because it's a little funny.
game, and then here at home against Dallas.
Oh, look at this! This is a 4-1 game. Yes!
Obviously, we see that. What were your thoughts when you saw that?
Holy smokes! What just happened? I mean, you never. Especially you see a young guy like that try that. I mean, that sort of blew my mind when he tried that. He had effort there, and effort finished it, which was also good there. But yeah, I mean, you just don't see a lot of guys trying that pass from 40 yards out there, to spring a player on for a goal there. So that was impressive there.
Yeah, no, and I think too, it's like what I've noticed. Obviously, they ended up scoring obviously 4 goals, but of those 3 highlights that we showed, Dejan was involved in all of them. Whether it was assist, obviously scoring the goal, but I think those are 10 out of 10 highlights that we're seeing out of Dejan, and I think he's the type of player for me that I just want to see more of, because you can also see where potentially this offense can go, because I think he will help Chicharito in the offense in a lot of different ways. But let's talk about Kevin Cabral, because I've been very vocal about him. But I think these last 2 games, Open Cup, he had I think he was involved. Kevin Cabral was involved. He scored the first goal. To beat LAFC, they ended up winning 3-1. He had probably the most impressive game he's had in his career, under his Galaxy career. And against Austin FC yesterday, I felt like he also had a solid game. What are your thoughts on Kevin Cabral so far?
Yeah, it was big performance against LAFC. I think it was a big relief for him, and I think that sort of reinforced Greg's reason for starting him. All these times. Everybody knows. I mean, the season hasn't gone the way everybody expected him to. I mean, designated player hadn't scored in. He had only scored 1 goal in this season. Still hadn't scored a league goal, but a U.S. Open goal. He added another one there. You can see the last couple of these 2 game series, he seems to be more comfortable, I guess. Maybe the relief of scoring and winning against LAFC sort of took a weight off his shoulder. But he looked good the last 2 weeks, and we'll see how he plays out after the break.
Yeah, and I think to me, just that LAFC game, because I was talking to a few people, and obviously Kevin Cabral came up. But yeah, because I wasn't sure, and I think anytime if you can have a big game like that, because he needed to have a big game, I didn't expect him to do what he did against LAFC, but I think that's a knockout. That's a knockout game, right? U.S. Open Cup. Obviously, you have all these games within a short amount of period. But he showed up. He stepped up to the plate, and to me, I can see him be consistent. If he's able to be consistent doing this, I think he's definitely gonna be one of the elite players for the LA Galaxy. And I think him doing that on the wing side and coming back on the defensive end and all that, because I think who was it? I think Raheem had talked about it, him coming back on the defensive side and all those different things. I think that helps out the Galaxy so much more as a team as a whole. But then, once he starts getting the goals and everything like that, it just really, to me, it really opens up the game more for the LA Galaxy. But a lot of rules riot on him continuing to put that effort in the defensive end. Obviously, the goals and everything like that, that's what you expect with a DP player.
Yeah, he had a goal and assist against LAFC. So, everybody we've talked to said that he in training he's like deadly, man. He finishes everything in training. We just haven't seen it translate into a league game yet. But I mean, time will come. I think in time it'll start hitting the back of the net for him here.
Yeah, hopefully this is he could build up this momentum, because two big games that he had. And we also had a comment for Yasmin, said 3-1 win against LAFC, right at the ship. Kevin Cabral's been good. Ed Velasquez says, what's up, Ed? But yeah, for me, those are 2 different things that I've seen from Kevin Cabral, and I think if they continue that moving forward, I think to me it's gonna be exciting for the Galaxy. But you also got a jam-packed schedule. Let's talk a little bit more about the Open Cup, because that's a big win. Obviously, because we know it's Open Cup. It continues a path on potentially winning a trophy and potentially getting a bid for the CONCACAF CCL. LAFC have never won, and they still haven't won at Dignity Health Sports Park. I was unsure how this game was going to finish. I felt like it was going to be a lot closer. LAFC really did not play that well for whatever the reason, and Galaxy played well defensively. They completely dominated LAFC. If we're going to be honest, I was a bit surprised by that. And I don't know about you because previously I think they had just lost to Houston at home 3-0. I think they had just lost, so we didn't know what to expect from the Galaxy. All that's erased after you beat LAFC, after you dominate LAFC 3-1. What were your thoughts on that game and how it ended up going?
Yeah, and then you look back, they had lost 3-0 to Dallas. So that's your last two home games, 6-1, and now you're coming in against your rival, who's flying high, top of the league, and that Galaxy just shut them down. They didn't score until the 87th minute or whatever. Yeah, that was a complete performance. Probably one of the most complete they've had. Total, yes, but also against LAFC. I mean, that was just a total shutdown, really.
Yeah, and I think another thing that kind of just stood out for me, they these last two games they've done it without also Douglas Costa. So you can only imagine if they add him to the mix. But I think one other thing too, we saw Jonathan Klinsmann get the start in the Open Cup, and we've seen Jonathan Bond. What do you make of that?
Yeah, Greg told us what day was that? Either Thursday or Friday that the Open Cup is Klinsmann's tournament.
Okay.
He said they're going to win or lose with Klinsmann in goal. He said that he believes he has two starting quality goalkeepers, which they do. At some of those goals, I thought maybe against Houston and Dallas, maybe Bond could have made a save on one or two of them, but it is what it was. But yeah, he said Klinsmann's this guy in the Open Cup, and we'll see how he does. He didn't face much traffic against LAFC except for the one goal that got by him. But I don't think he faced many shots at all. That might have been the first shot on goal.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing too, because they also did it without Sega Coulibaly, who I felt he's been the best center back so far for the other Galaxy. So we're definitely seeing a lot of players come in and step up on the biggest things. But obviously now they go into this 2-week break. How are you feeling about the Galaxy, them going into this break?
A lot better now since they sort of righted the ship after that stretch against Houston and Dallas. But also, when you win the last two games, whether you want to play this week. But now they get almost just 3 weeks into their next game. Some guys will be leaving. Raheem Edwards is leaving for Canada. Julian Araujo for Mexico. I think Efra leaves to join the under-20 Mexico team somewhere in Europe, I think, for a tournament. And I think that might be it. But now you have guys who are able to get healthy now. You have Sega, who's been out. Sasha's been out. And now you find out Douglas, they said it was a thigh injury. The other day, Greg said it was hamstring related. So give him time to rest up and get him ready for for June, which is it's a short month, but I think it's like 4 games in 2 weeks. I think it's pretty. June's going to hit pretty quickly for the Galaxy.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned completely. I forgot. I knew it was international break, but obviously it's not a break for everybody.
Yeah.
You just mentioned obviously and obviously Efra and obviously Julian because those are big games. And obviously the World Cup is coming up here at the end of the year, so those are big things that we're going to see. You brought up Raheem. Let's talk about Raheem because he's I would say he's been an exciting player. He also doubled down on his comments after he backed up his comments, wanting to piss off the 32-52. What are your overall thoughts on Raheem Edwards?
Yeah, could you say he's been the team MVP so far? He's been. There was a stretch there where he was getting forward and sort of leading the attack there a couple, in the earlier months. But he's been still solid on the back, and also with the he has to get up and down the wing as well. He's done it on both sides of the ball, which is something I really didn't think because he's like he's playing a different role here than he was when LAFC, or even when he was with Toronto and Minnesota when he came up. But yeah, he's been so solid, night in, night out. It's a good thing they don't have a game during the break because they would miss him if they had to play without him. But yeah, he's been solid all the way around.
Yeah, and I really like everything how he is, and his demeanor and everything. And I would have to agree with some of the comments that he said, because it adds a little bit more, I guess, spiciness
Yeah.
to the rivalry. And I like how he compared it to the NBA. And I do feel like the MLS is a little soft. I would say that with just certain things. Just being able to cover the NBA, obviously, to the MLS and all that. I understand what he said and what he meant by that, because those are things that I've kind of experienced. I was like, it's different covering the MLS. It's obviously a league that is growing and all these different things. But I definitely like his game. More overall, like outside of all, I really like his game. I really like his effort, and also like because I think earlier this year I think that was one of the practices, or one of the training practices, that I had asked him, what it would mean to be called up. Now he gets that call up, which is big. Canada has a solid team. They're the number one team in CONCACAF, if I'm not mistaken. That team's pretty stacked. They definitely have the pieces to make a deep run in Qatar. So yeah, like we're seeing a player that went from an LAFC team, or a team that may probably wasn't right for him. Now we see him with the Galaxy, and he gets his international call up. And I think it's just amazing to see, because we're getting to see a player that's progressing and then also getting noticed at the national level.
Yeah, and you look at for the World Cup for the MLS players, the World Cup is going to start after the season is over. So these guys are going to be in ready to go if they get the call to join their national team. So the rest of the season, he could be playing himself onto the Canadian World Cup roster possibly. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, how how the rest of the season goes for him.
Yeah, because I'm not sure how much of the Canadian football team I'll watch this international break, but I'll try to keep my eye out to see if Raheem gets a couple starts, or just catch some of the replays. But I think that would be big for Raheem, because he definitely has the tools. He definitely has the speed and everything to do that what a left back does. And he's had some pretty solid assists this season. Another player that's looking to get called up is Chicharito. There was something along the lines that he had reached out to Chicharito. I think he ended up confirming that after the LAFC game. Now, I don't know if he's going to get called up. A lot of fans want him to get called up. We obviously don't know the conversation, what went down. But from what I'm seeing from the Mexican media and everything I've seen, that it may be a little too late. It may be a little too late for Chicharito, because I guess he apologized. That's what I'm seeing. Things change every now and then. We'll see how this international break goes for Mexico, because they've needed Chicharito, but it's a lot of stubbornness. But what are your thoughts on Chicharito and on all that? What you've been able to understand from all of this?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's something in the past that happened, I guess. But at some point, you got to say, hey, can we just let bygones be bygones and move forward here? Adding him to that lineup, to that roster, that'd be big. But yeah, I mean, the first time I actually talked to Chicharito was when Mexico was out here, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, whatever. He was on the national team. First time I ever talked to him, it was like a group of like maybe 100 people surrounded him or whatever. And then after that, he sort of fell off the roster, I guess. But yeah, I mean, at some point you think they would come together and say, okay, whatever happened, the past, add him going into Qatar. I mean, he adds a lot to your roster, man. I mean, if they don't want him, maybe the U.S. can work some magic and get him on their roster. But that would be crazy, right?
It's funny. My brother literally said the same thing. He said something like, "Why don't they just let him?" He's like, "I know this can't happen, but he's like, why don't they just put him on the U.S. team?" I was like, he's like, but it's also I guess pretty cool. And regardless, we all hope he gets called up for the national team. I do. Obviously I support the Mexican national team, but I know there's so much, that goes into a decision like that, and
Yeah.
what happened beforehand and all those different things. But one thing that I'm noticing is like if you can ball out at the MLS level, which is obviously not a Premier League or La Liga or whatever, that you still have some weight when it comes internationally and in the national level. Because obviously people that don't watch the MLS like you and I do don't cover it as much as you and I do. But I notice those things like, hey, Chicharito's killing it. The Mexican media won't stop talking about how he needs to be in the team because they have to understand that the league is really that competitive, right? We just saw Sounders knock off Pumas in the CCL and the CONCACAF Championship. But what are your thoughts on how the level has grown and now to get players like Chicharito and all that? That kind of we know Chicharito's a world class player, even if he doesn't come to MLS. But to be able to bounce back, we've even seen Zlatan was able to bounce back, quote unquote, his career, if that's the words.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that the league has improved over the years. There's still ways to go. There's a way to. I think teams need to be given the right to spend more money on their roster to sort of increase their rosters. That way, you can really contend against the Mexican clubs. We know Seattle won this year, but what happens next year if you go in with? I mean, if it's a different club than Seattle, you look at the clubs now. Who aside from Seattle can contend or maybe beat Atlas or whatever? We just saw Atlas win the championship the other night. I just think clubs need to spend more money. You got to be smart with your players, man. If I was a president, MLS president, I wouldn't sign any DPs over 35.
Maybe 30. I agree.
Maybe 32, to be honest with you, man. It's like you got to be smart with your DPs, man. And
even I feel like even like 18 or 9. I feel like 18. like they're like because I'm just like, look, I've covered MLS the last 4 or 5 years, and I'm like, I haven't even panned out. Like back then it used to be like they're signing old DP players.
Yeah.
Now there's a lot of teams that are signing too young of a players. And I think it may be different, the younger guys. I just feel like
but I mean the guys there are a handful very few guys from Europe I would take after 30, 33 right now.
So
Luka
no
Modric.
Is that's what Mike's saying in the chat. Wait.
Yeah, of course Zlatan, he's a freak, whatever.
I would say he's a unicorn. He's a unicorn.
Yeah. Luka Modric, I would take him like 2 years ago. Get him on my team, put him in the middle of the field, just let him orchestrate everything. Gareth Bale, I would take him. I mean, he doesn't play anymore, really. He just plays golf, whatever. Yeah. I get him over here, hook him up with the golf courses, and have him show up on game night. But yeah, you can't miss your DPs. If you're strict with your cap, you can't miss.
Yeah, you seriously cannot miss, and I think that's the biggest thing. Yazin says Chiellini 37. We're talking about DPs. Chiellini is going to be a TAM, target allocation player. We have to talk about all these different.
37, man.
Yeah, I think that a TAM deal is not a bad, but DP is something else.
Yeah, you look at Douglas Costa. I mean, a TAM deal, yeah. Hey, give it a try. A DP deal, you're like, oh, wait a minute, what are we doing here?
Yeah, it's difficult with Douglas Costa because as of now he hasn't panned out.
I mean, he's not healthy. I mean, maybe this whole year just be him trying to get him healthy and fit, which is tough because you really, if this team needs to contend for a title this year, you're going to need your DPs to contribute somewhere down the line here.
Yeah, and a lot of that is just being like, hey, just be healthy.
Yeah.
I know you can't predict those injuries or anything like that, but like, hey, we may need you to fight through this pain or, stay healthy, whichever the case may be. Because I mean,
what they say, part of the job is showing up, man. You got to show up. Get your name on the game sheet, man. You got to show up.
Hey, man, one way, if you're injured or not, like we gonna need you to lace up some boots because we need you.
Yeah, exactly. But there's some good and bad about the league. I mean, I like the under 22 initiative, and I like the kids coming up through the academy. But the top half of the roster, you really can't miss.
Yeah.
On those guys, really.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think one of those things too. Like when just talking about DPS, I feel like what I was gonna say earlier. I feel like a lot of the young DPS that get signed. I just think now that I was just thinking about this the other day, it's like I just kind of feel like I don't know if this is the right word, but it's unfair to bring a 18, 19-year-old that's been doing a decent job, right, in South America or wherever overseas, and then to solely have them carry your club at 18 years old. Because when you think about it, right, you have the guy in Cincinnati. I forgot his name, Brenner. Brenner.
Uh,
He has to solely carry. You got somewhat of, even with Cabral here, there's a lot put on him. Obviously, he's not the quote unquote leader of the team. But if he doesn't, like we've seen, if he's not consistent enough, then, because you have to hit on those three DPs, there's
yeah,
a lot of pressure put on them. You know what I'm saying? Then
yeah,
even down the road with LAFC, Brian Rodriguez. And I was just thinking to myself, and I just think maybe MLS clubs are a little too eager to want to just, like, hey, we'll pay you all this money, but we need you to, in some sort of capacity, carry us there.
mhm.
That's not that many 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds can do that just around the world, let alone the MLS. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. If you look at, you said you brought up Brian Rodriguez. You look at Diego Rossi. He came in.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
yeah he
came
did
in,
it.
smashed it, and now he's back over in Europe. And it's like that's what you got to do, man. He came over maybe 19, maybe 20, I think.
Yeah.
Spent 2 or 3 years, and now he's headed back to Europe. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, one of these days when I'm a president of an MLS club, I'll help change the rules somehow.
Hey, if you need some help, I'm there. I'm there. Andy says best ability is availability. Yes, it is.
Right,
Yes,
got to
it is.
show up.
Yeah, you got
Tell
it. You got it.
tell
What's
Andy
that?
tell Andy go Warriors.
Hey, we're all Warriors fans, man. We're all Warriors fans. You know what? Because we're gonna finish off with this. Andy, if you guys don't know, he's a Austin FC fan. He's an Austin Celtics fan. So his team's all over the map. Some may say bandwagon, some may just say he likes to support his club. Look, I'm not here to judge, but the guy is a Boston Celtics fan, and I was like, you know what? I was rooting for the Heat, because they're kind of like the underdogs, but. Now I got to root for the Warriors because I don't want. Did I miss this? Hey, but kudos to you. Kudos to you. He's a Laker fan. Hey, but you do live in LA though. You do live.
Oh man, he's out here taking our sunshine, cheering for the Celtics, man. What a
Yeah,
shame.
what back road world does he live in?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm a diehard Lakers fan, but I don't want to see the Celtics win.
Man, I'm old school. I remember those 1980 mid-80 Lakers Celtic rivalries, man. I was raised to hate them, so I was like, hey, I'm gonna hate them forever, man.
Yeah, anybody but the Celtics. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Anybody but the Celtics. But yeah. So Damien, I want to appreciate you. Thank you for hopping on. Thank you for being on. Everybody here in the comments and everybody, have a good break. I do want to mention, not gonna have a couple live shows or podcasts for the next couple weeks. I'm gonna take an international break myself. I need a break. I've been covering both teams, so I just need a break. So these next 2 weeks, gonna take a break, and then once the MLS teams come back, then we'll get the ball rolling. So I just want to give you guys a heads up and the people listening. So once again, Damien, thank you for hopping on, and we'll catch you guys next time. And give us a second once we go to the LFC segment.
All right, take care.
Later. are back talking LAFC. Tough up and down week for LAFC. Obviously, they got a bounce back win against San Jose, which is pretty big. Obviously, U.S. Open Cup did not go the way most expected to go. But here to help me talk about all that, we got JP Marcus. JP, how you doing?
What's up, man? Not so good after the U.S. Open, result. But like you said, it was a bounce back weekend for the black and gold. But a lot to talk about, a lot to dig in. Overall, not the best sensations though.
Yeah, look, we're going to talk about it. I think it's I was just in shock. I didn't expect them. I thought the game was going to be closer. I thought either one team was going to win 2-1 or 3-2 or something close, but it was not. It was not the way you expected to go. Obviously, Vela went out early, but I just felt like the overall effort was just bad. And there's no way to put it. And it just like I was like, when are you gonna get to second, third gear, fourth, fifth gear? But it just never happened. Looks like it just stayed in first gear. But what were your thoughts? What were your thoughts watching that game?
I didn't like the lineup, going into it. Just to begin, I don't know why he decided to move Ibiaga out to right back. I think Fall would have been the faster option, especially when the Galaxy like to play on the counter and have Granciera on the wing. Granciera exploited Sebas all game. There was no tactical adjustment to that the whole game. Sebas played right back the whole game when, he's always played center back. He does not have, a fullback pace. And I didn't like that. I also didn't like the fact that, Vela went down early. That, I guess, is uncontrollable. But, why not play Brian? Why not play Brian Rodriguez since the beginning again? This was his first game back. He got injured in the last El Tráfico. It could have been a vindication game for him, but they didn't put him until the second half. So I think the tactical adjustments from Dolo weren't there. And like you said, the attitude was not there since the beginning. The attitude was terrible. There was no heart. Given the track record, LAFC is expected to lose this game in Carson, but every other game has been close. 2-1, 1-0, like you said. A 3-1 is just embarrassing, especially when the 32-52 always travel and all the black and gold supporters always travel. But the showing that the team had was just not up to par. Especially for an elimination playoff tournament game.
Yeah, I think obviously talking about that game, it was just you hit on both 2 points right there. Ibiaga right back. He's not the guy you want going out on the wing chasing all these players that are going to be able, going up in the Granciera or Kevin Cabral. Yeah, and I think I just don't think on those things Shondolo got it right. He's done a lot of good things this season, but I think when it's come to the biggest game so far this year, which is, both have been the Galaxy games, and obviously this is the Open Cup. I think that one's going to hurt and that one's definitely going to sting because if you lose, you lose. But that's one thing. But if you get whooped and get embarrassed, that's just a whole nother thing. And then that no one expected it because the Galaxy had not played up to par. I really was feeling like, hey, this could potentially be the first time LAFC do it. But for whatever reason, maybe it was a psychological thing or whatever. Like I said, I was in shock, and I still don't know what happened to them that night because even with Carlos Vela being out, you still have enough pieces to potentially beat the Galaxy. There's still enough offensive pieces and defensive pieces with all the injuries. Galaxy had injuries on their side too, but I just think when you look at that game, they obviously they bounced back with San Jose, but it's gonna sting for a while until they're able to beat the Galaxy in another important game.
Yeah, I mean, the way the U.S. Open Cup is for the Galaxy now, the path that they have is so much easier, one could say. So the winner of that game really had an easier path to the finals. And if the Galaxy end up winning the Open Cup, then it's just going to be a long summer, a long year for the black and gold if they don't really get the Supporters' Shield or the MLS Cup. I mean, MLS Cup is still the goal. It has to be the goal, especially now after such an embarrassing loss in a tournament that was very achievable, that a lot of people expected the team to win or had a high possibility of even going deeper. But obviously, you get drawn with Carson early. But I think it's just more of the attitude that was shown that game. that really just let everybody down.
Yeah, and you talk about the attitude. Yeah, I think that definitely let everybody down. Look, even the supporters had their voices heard. What was it? The first 10, 12 minutes of the game, the 32-52 did not chant. I think that's the first that I've ever seen them ever do that. Collectively, and by and large part, the 32-52 is run with the organization. But I think to me that's a big statement because if you're not going to be able to if you're not going to be able to put the effort in, you talk about the fan base that travels and wants to send that message. I think the message was pretty loud and clear because I don't know. What were your thoughts on the 32-52 not chanting for what was it 10, 12 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, I think they did 12 minutes because they like to think of themselves as the 12th man, or that's the symbolism behind it, which is true because many people around the league have said it. The 32-52 intimidates, opposing crowds, really jolts energy into the team. And the 32-52 travel everywhere. We've been to Miami, we've been to Seattle, we've been to all these places and really made some noise. You hear the 32-52 on the TV on away games more than the home crowd. And, we keep on showing up to Carson and they just can never get a result. And not even just get a result, just the attitude again, just goes back to the attitude. So I think the protest was fine. It's understandable. They did it in, I guess, the right way. Because everybody knows that 32-52 for being loud and, chanting since the first minute all the way to the final whistle. And when you don't hear that in the beginning of the game, you kind of start thinking what's going on. And I think that was the right way to get everybody's attention.
Yeah, and it's also it changes the quote unquote experience because obviously that part of going into the Bank of California is also you get the experience of 32-52 and all that. But I think I was okay with that. But here's Steve Shondelos what he had to say on that. I believe Andy was the one that asked this question.
Okay, my experience is frustration with the performance and result. We're frustrated too. It's not like any of us woke up and said, don't worry about it. It's another game. And to turn that frustration into something constructive like we did tonight is a lot of hard work and shows mental strength and gut that this team has. And we know how important the fans are here in LA. And of course, you can hear when they're not there. And you hear the minute they were there again. I understand their reaction. Not a problem. But I will say this. I think we're better together. And hopefully we don't have to beat that anymore because with them there and our players feeding off of that, you ask any other player who comes who's played here, it's a very difficult place to come and play and win and to compete because of the fans and the energy our players feed off.
Well, obviously, Shonel addressed it. What were your thoughts on what he had to say there?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think he has to accept the criticism and the action of the 32-52. I mean, they know it. They're self-aware that it was not the showing that the fans deserved. So he had to take it. He had to accept it. And he didn't really make a controversial comment after that. So he accepted it, and I think everything's gonna go back to normal. When results keep on coming, the black and gold.
Yeah, no, I think it was very clear. I mean, nothing too much you can add to that. A lot of people, obviously, when you lose two big games to the Galaxy, but obviously this one, are now questioning if Shirandolo is the guy, even though they're in first place in MLS. Which is a wild thing kind of to put together and even talk about. But how do you feel? Because right now LAFC is currently, like I said, number one in MLS standings. That's just standings. But they did lose this big game to the Galaxy. They've lost these two last games. There's still one more to come. But how do you feel so far of Shirandolo?
I think I tweeted it out. I mean, the minimum or what the team has to strive for is MLS Cup. I don't want these convincing or these wins against San Jose, against the bottom half teams. The fans want MLS Cup. It's year 5, so that's the bare minimum. I think we've given JT a full process. This is his team. These are all the players he selected for the most part. Dolo is his guy, for what we believe to be his guy. You know, his friend that he's known for a while. Dolo has proven himself well tactically, but in the games that matter, you know, Austin, Philadelphia, the Galaxy, the top teams in the table, you know, we struggled. We tie against the Union at home after the Union fly over here. That's a long flight. We should have been able to win. Austin, the fight for first place, you know, we lose. And then the two Galaxy games. One was a close one, obviously the first one, and then this one was just no attitude and no personality. And then you come back and beat San Jose, but you're expected to beat San Jose. You know, that's not anything special. After the international break, we have a lot of difficult high table teams. So I think that's going to be the real test of how the team really shapes up if we have any additions after this international break and how they get into the team.
Yeah, no, I think good point. Good points made there. You know, obviously they got the Seattle Sounders. I think it's the first game back after the national break. And I think obviously remind me is Kellen Acosta.
Kellen Acosta's out. Yeah.
Kellen Acosta's going to international break. Chiqui Palacios.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Cifuentes is too. But it's not a lot of people that are leaving. So the main group stays.
Yeah. And I think, also, you know, we got to talk about Carlos Vela. Obviously the contracts, because I don't really think we need to talk about the San Jose game because I just don't. They won against San Jose. They won 3-2. Brian Rodriguez had an amazing game. But I think there's a little bit more urgent things. You know, obviously Carlos Vela. We will talk a little bit more on it, but like Carlos Vela's contract hasn't been signed as of yet. Tomorrow's going to be May 31st. We still have about a month. I think his contract ends July 1st or June 31st, June 30th or whatever. What are your thoughts? How are you feeling about Carlos Vela? Do you want him to re-sign with the club, or how are you feeling?
Well, I mean, Tom Bogert and Taylor Twellman said a while ago that the talks were basically done. You know, it just had to be pen on paper. I don't know if they're waiting for after the international break to make it a big deal. Him talking to the media after the Carson game was very telling. You know, he doesn't really talk to the media that much. He's very selective, or the team is very selective of when they let him talk. So him talking after that loss, especially after him only playing 15, 20 minutes, I thought that was telling. I think that means he's going to stay. That's how I read into it.
Yeah.
But he's still the leading scorer for the team. He's still, you know, he still has an impact, but I also want to see more hunger from him. And I don't expect him to have that same big contract that he did, you know, coming into this team. I think it has to be somewhat of a cut there. And then 18 months is fine, you know, finish this season, finish next season. And then after that, he can drop down to a TAM, he can retire or whatever. But if he's going to sign now, because it just becomes a distraction. And Dolo said it, I think, too, if he always comes smiling to work, and that's not the sign of a person who's leaving. So I think, you know, he's staying, and in true LAFC fashion, we're just going to get it last minute. So.
Yeah, I think you're right on all that. I just think I don't see him leaving, and I would be shocked, to be honest, completely shocked if he leaves, because you're right. You know, he talked about after the Galaxy game, he talked to the media, and then he also has been, you know, he also did say there's nothing that's been to anything signed. He obviously mentioned that he loves, but I think what I'm seeing what I sense is he may want more money, you know, is what I get, because if he hasn't signed just now, obviously that's up to the team and, you know, his age and all these different things. Like if I'm Carlos Vela, right, and this is just me thinking out loud, I'm seeing how much Lorenzo and Zion is coming in here. I don't know, he's getting paid what, 13 million a year, 15 million a year.
Yeah,
whatever.
15. Yeah.
Right, 15 million a year, and then you see what's the guy's name in Chicago? I'm gonna butcher his name.
Shaqiri, 8 million.
8 million a year, and he's not doing anything. And I'm Carlos Vela. I think he was getting paid 4.2, and I'm assuming that's 4.2 from January to June, is what I'm assuming. If I'm Carlos Vela's agent and I'm looking at those numbers, I think the price is going up. But, you know, and I think if I'm LAFC on the other side, right, to play devil's advocate, I'm not giving you that much. I want you to stay, but I'm just not going to give you that much, because You know, there's some concern there, and him not being able to play the Open Cup game against Galaxy. I don't think it helped his case if they want more money because like, hey, we can't count on you because whatever it was, a quad or whatever they're calling it, which we know they won't tell us. I just think it's complicated. And if you're LAFC, like I don't. I think it would make sense to send him for the rest of the year, but how much more are you willing to give him? Look, I love watching Carlos Vela. I love his game. He's exciting. But there's just other things that I think um, you know, he could be better at. And I just think, or maybe that's just not in his DNA, but one of those things is being a leader, being a more of a vocal leader and all those, especially, he's done it, but, it's not the type of leadership we see in all the football players around the world at his level, so I think it's if you ever LAFC, I think LAFC have a little bit more, especially after that U.S. Open Cup, they have a little bit more of the cards on their favor on their side because he just wasn't able to play, So we'll see what happens. But if they can't get a deal done, I'd be shocked. But I think they're going to get a deal done, and Carlos Vela will stay. Now the question is, how long does he stay? How long does he resign for? That's the
Yeah.
question.
And this is where JT and this is where Garces come into play. Garces has a lot of connections in South America. We've seen what he's been able to do in Mexico, getting good players, getting players or that he scouted personally that nobody's really known, and they end up being really good. If Vela's trying to stall out, Garces should go to South America, try to find a 25, 24-year-old, number 10 DP that's cheap, or we still have that one DP slot that's open. Now we can get another big name to replace Vela's marketing and big name pull. But this is the summer where we're gonna see who's been working and who's been making the right calls, because there's no way LAFC end the season with two DPs again. It just shouldn't happen. If you're really trying to go far in the MLS Cup, you need a third DP. And especially after getting eliminated in the U.S. Open Cup, you have to. Even for the Supporter Shield, there's so many players getting injured now. This team kind of looks thin now that everybody's injured. Going into the season, it was very deep. It was the deepest it's ever been. But then injuries happen because injuries always happen in MLS, and now it's thin. So, JT and Garces need to really put in work this summer. Obviously, the Chiellini news is great. It's big, but he's not a DP. And he's not covering the midfield because that's a weak spot for the team too. So you need a third DP, you need a midfielder, and you need a right back. So a lot of work to be done. And then obviously Carlos Vela's contract needs to get sorted out, because that's just going to become more of a distraction. More media attention is going to go to that. And maybe Vela's just waiting to be a free agent and then getting a signing bonus as a free agent. That's also something that.
But let's talk about this just real quick. Well, Chris, who's a big fan of the show, he says Vela is a waste of money in the DP. He gets hurt a lot. The slightest touch, you want to get paid, show up on the field and play. I would agree with the show up on the field and play. I don't know if he's a waste of money, but if he's not able to be on the field, at $8-9 million and you're not showing up, then that's difficult. But if you're, is he like, say he wants to he's making 4.2 right now. I'm assuming that's, like I said, it's June, from January to June. Say he wants another 4 million from June to December, or whenever the November. I don't know when the season ends. Sorry, guys, but is he worth another 4 million? To finish out the season? Was it 2, 3? What I'm saying?
It can't. Regardless of what his contract, he cannot get 6 million again. He just can't. It's just not smart for the club to do that. He has to get paid 3 million. That's my number. 3.5 million for 18 months with an aging Carlos Vela who is injury prone. That's what the club. That's my number for the club. But obviously, Carlos Vela wants his money, wants to protect his family, wants his best interest, and he's most likely going to ask for from before. And when he's the team's leading scorer, when the team can't win without him on the field, the big games without him on the field, I mean, I think it helps him too, regardless if he's injured or not, because it's not a big hamstring injury, so that's why he went out quick, because he didn't want to aggravate it worse. He just felt one little pull and said, "Okay, I'm out." So then he goes to the front office and says, "Well, see, the team can't beat Carson without me on the field. Has no chance. See the display the team put."
That's a really good point. Yeah.
If the team would have lost 1-0 with a dubious call or whatever it may be, a last minute header or something, then the team says, "You know what? We don't need you." The team doesn't fully need you. They could do it on their own. But with a 3-1 abysmal performance, Vela says the team has no personality when I'm not on the field. So it's a lot of things to keep in mind. Age, I think, is another big one. So
that's true. No. I think you make another good point. You might have just changed my mind, because you might have just changed my mind with that point, because I just think right if you can't, right, like you just said, if you can't beat Galaxy without Carlos Vela, right? Who knows if Carlos Vela plays 90 minutes? We could play the what if game if he was there.
Yeah.
I would say the game would be closer. I don't know if they would have won. I don't know. You would assume it would be closer and it'd be more dangerous. But I also think it's on LAFC, like how eventually you're gonna have to move on from Carlos Vela. Eventually, it could be after this season or after that. Because if I'm Carlos Vela, I want to extend this as long as possible. You're not gonna just want to resign for 6 more months, or not even 6 more months, like 4 or 5 more months.
Till October.
October, yeah. You're gonna want to extend to a whole another year, right? And this is where it gets fun and interesting if you're, JT and the rest of the Garces and the rest of the front offense. But you also gotta be looking, like you said, another DP and all that, because without Carlos Vela, I don't know if they win MLS Cup, regardless of what happens. Because then you would have to bring 2 more DPs.
I agree. Carlos Vela has to stay. He's gonna stay. I mean, everything indicates that he's gonna come back when the international break comes. He's gonna stay. It's just, what's the price point and how long is that contract, and then that's when you can ultimately make the decision, because this team is so used to Carlos Vela, the city's so used to Carlos Vela, and not seeing him there might be too big of a shock if you really don't have another big name to replace him. I mean, if JT tells me Isco's coming, then I'll be like, okay, fine, bye Carlos Vela. But we have no guarantee that a big name is gonna come and fill in those shoes. And we don't know what to expect from the front office. Chiellini's a big name, but yeah, that's a center back, and he's aging too. So yeah, that brings experience, that brings grit, but ultimately you still have an open DP slot, and Carlos Vela knows this league in and out.
Yeah, let's talk about Chiellini here. I pulled up Fabrizio Romano's tweet. He tweeted this, I believe, yesterday. He says, Giorgio Chiellini, am I saying it right? Because I'm not good at it. On his imminent move to Los Angeles FC, I love, in quotations, this is Chiellini, I love to try a new experience, even for personal life. Then I'll be back at Juventus for sure. I feel Torino as my home. He told Gazzetta, which I'm assuming is an Italian newspaper. It says LAFC are just waiting for Chiellini's final green light.
Which is his wife.
Okay, which that makes sense. I mean, from Italy to LA is a big move.
Yeah.
Nothing, not an easy big move. But let's say this does happen, because I think a player like Chiellini, if LAFC definitely want to go down, the road of winning the MLS Cup, you need experience, you need grittiness. And you also, I don't know. I know Argentina and Italy play June 1st.
He's there. He'll be in that final. I think that's his final game for Italy.
Italy, okay, but Italy's not going to the World Cup. I'm assuming you guys all know that. So we may not find out about the news until maybe 2 weeks from now, a week and a half from now.
Yeah, I mean, he has to do international duty. His wife ultimately has to say, yes, I'm okay with moving to LA. I think they have a daughter, or he has kids, so obviously the wife is thinking about everything, changing education, changing culture, changing the language. But I think ultimately, you can't really say no to LA for a year or two of your lives. So I think ultimately I hope they get a
Yeah.
yes. Or maybe Chiellini's wife says, I'm gonna stay in Italy and you can go for 4 months, or for the season, and then we'll go visit you when we have time and not really fully move because the kids have summertime or whenever school isn't in session, they can go visit Chiellini here. But these are all assumptions. Everything indicates that he's most likely coming. When Fabrizio tweets it, you gotta listen.
Yeah. No, Fabrizio obviously the most. What do you got to say? But yeah, I look. I love the move. It's a TAM deal. I love the move. I think it would really help LAFC defensively, especially in the big games, especially when facing Galaxy, especially when trying to make a deep playoff run. His experience, you would hope he fits right in. He doesn't get injured, and is able to help out the team in some type of way. Let's finish off with this. You talked about DP. Where would you want? Because obviously they still got an open DP spot. Where would you want that DP spot to be filled?
I mean, we have 3 strikers: Chicho, Moose, and Jennings. We have 4 wingers in Vela, Birad, Opoku, and Tajuri. You need a 10. You need 2 10s. Sifu's doing good. He's doing his job. But if you put a number 10 DP there, I think the team would really look different. So like you said, an attacking midfield DP, because Ilie and Acosta are both 6s. They're not really going to push the ball forward and create that much. That's not their job. It's not what they've been playing their whole career. So another more creative 10 other than Sifu would, I think, help the team. And I think it needs to be a big name. If you really want to make noise on MLS, it needs to be another big name. Carlos Vela can't be the only big name on your team.
Like how big of a name? Like a European big name, or?
I think it should be a European big name. I think we've tried South America out already. It hasn't really worked out all the time. Rossi worked out, but B-Rod hasn't. So maybe trying to get another European DP would work.
No, that's interesting. I do like the number 10 idea because I think it definitely can add a lot of offensive. Could definitely add a lot of offensive force to that lineup and everything. Especially right now, it's a little bit of a struggle with that. And also the chat agreed with you that they wanted a number 10 and wanted an attacking midfield because this team has a lot of players, a lot of talent, but for whatever reason, they're first. I think you mentioned MLS. It's an MLS Cup or essentially bus because Supporters Shield. U.S. Open Cup would have been nice, but unfortunately that's gone out the window. Supporters Shield is gonna be there. That's another way to get a CONCACAF Champions League, but definitely the MLS Cup because you're gonna have to fight. You're gonna have Austin there. You're gonna have. I'm assuming the Sounders, one way or another, they're going to be in the playoffs.
Dallas is playing really well. Real Salt Lake are going to get DPs this summer. They have 1 DP, and they're going to fill those 2 slots up. So RSL is going to get better. Everybody's going to get better. So LAFC really has to make moves during this summer. This is crunch time.
Yeah, no, I'm very interested to see what happens. Names like Chucky Lozano being thrown on there. I mean, that's a big name. Might not be maybe not the right fit, but we'll see. But yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there, guys. I do want to say it's going to be international break for myself too as well. These next 2 weeks, I'm taking them off. I talked to the boss. No, I just need a break. I've been posting a lot of content, So no live shows for the next 2 weeks, unless something crazy happens. I'll hop on, maybe do a Twitter Spaces. So check it out. Check it out on Twitter. I'll still be in unless something like LAFC gets a crazy signing or something like that. Then I'll hop on. But yeah, just to give you guys a heads up for the next 2 weeks, no shows, podcasts, or anything like that. But I'll still be up. I may post something, but I just want you guys a heads up. I got to go on a little break, and then I'll be back and join you guys. But thank you guys for everybody in the chat that hopped on. And also JP, enjoy the break, my brother. Are you off school now? Are you finally
done? Oh yeah, I'm done. I'm done with school. Finished the semester, so summertime.
There we go. We'll enjoy it, man. The beach. June is here in a couple of days. So for everybody else in the chat, for JP, this is Gio. We'll catch you guys next time. Bye, everybody.